along to tonight's Off the Ball. Richie McCormick at the helm until 10 p.m. tonight. Busy show on the way for you. TJ Reid, the Kilkenny legend, will be joining us after 7:30 to look back on the year that just was in Kilkenny hurling and what's to come next for them, because they're going to have a new manager in place pretty soon after the departure of Brian Cody, and whether or not he'll continue on as he approaches his 35th birthday. Deshaun Watson, the Cleveland Browns quarterback, this week was found to have committed more egregious behaviour than any before reviewed by the NFL, and for that he's just received a 6-game ban. We'll talk to Jenny Vrentas of the New York Times, who has been leading this story over the past few weeks and months, and indeed past year or so. And John Giles will help preview the new Premier League season, which of course gets underway tomorrow night, would you believe. All that, and we'll look back on the career of the great Con Houlihan on the 10th anniversary of his passing. 53106 for 30 cent is the number if you want to get in contact with us via text tonight, and you can tweet us at Off the Ball. Delighted to say joining us in studio for the Newsround are Mick McCarthy. Mick, thank you for coming in.
You're welcome. I'm delighted that you're delighted that I'm here.
I am. I'm delighted that you've walked that 12 feet from the office outside to come in here.
I had to mic myself up and everything.
You did. You were struggling with the wires and everything. You're a pro, Mick. You're a pro. Anne Marie Donlan joins us in studio as well. Anne Marie, good evening to you.
Hi Richie. Hi Mick.
Good news. We've got some good news. We're only talking outside.
Unusual.
Yeah, I know. We're talking outside in the office. Myself and Carl. It was the year ago since, because obviously the European games are ongoing. Pats are currently scoreless for CSK Sofia, by the way, and Sligo 2-0 down away to Viking. But we were talking about Pauk and Bowes in the Aviva, and that stretch of games that Bowes had in the Aviva, which was at the time like the first games back with like semi-big crowd. And it's hard to believe that's a year ago. We were sitting, everybody had to be seated like 3 seats apart, and everybody had to kind of wear masks and police themselves and not be like rushing down into amongst groups. And now we're back to normal. So back to normal, in fact, Mick. Do you remember road shows?
Road shows.
Yeah.
Road shows.
Do you remember road shows? Do you remember these things where we go out into like different places and maybe into a venue like, you know, the Three Arena or the Olympia, or, you know, the Vicar Street or the Cork Opera House is a really good one, I remember. And we'd have guests. Not only that, but we'd also have people in the crowd who would be there.
Audience, if you will.
100%.
Yeah, wow. Well,
we're going to have one.
They're back.
August 17th, Mick, which isn't far away as well.
August 17th.
August 17th, we're going to be in Vicar Street in association with Cadbury FC. And what a stellar lineup we have in store for that particular night. Michael Owen, Ian Wright, Emma Byrne, Karen Carney.
Wow.
That's
not bad at all.
That's a decent, you know, it's the makings of a 5-side team.
I think Michael Owen and Ian Wright will have some interesting conversations about fatherhood.
Jesus, yeah. It was a Michael Owens, because I'm completely out of the loop on these things,
Michael
because
Owens' daughter,
I kind of work evenings. So my evenings are spent watching like the cricket scoreboard and ESPN Crick Info tick over as it was last night, and watching like flash score tick by. So I don't see Love Island.
Okay, so I look, and this isn't the kind of, I don't watch Love Island, my wife does, but like obviously I am at work in the evenings as well. However, it has been on in the house. God almighty, that show lasts a long time.
Feels like
on basically every night for a year. 2 months.
Is it 2 months?
But Michael Owen's daughter, again, when you're in the room, I might be reading or on my phone or whatever, and every now and then I'm just like, there's a female Michael Owen speaking here. She has the same voice and cadence, doesn't she? Like, she sounds... You didn't watch it, okay. I don't know why Richie didn't watch it, Anne Marie didn't watch it. I'm stuck here in the middle as the only person.
Keane outside is nodding and smiling and pointing at himself, saying, yes, she indeed has the same cadence. So you're right there. You've got back up with Keane.
It's bananas. Like, it's just one of those strange things. I don't think I sound like my parents or whatever. But anyway, it was like, not necessarily in looks, but it was like you were very, very aware the whole time that this was Michael Owen's daughter who was on this
That'd be slightly off-putting. You're sitting there having a chat, and she's like, you know, well, you know, it's great to just be here.
That's not a bad Michael Owen impression, I have to say.
You just don't move your jaw that much, and you're there. I'm not going to do it in front of him on August 17th. I'd be kind of asking for trouble at that
I think
stage.
there's probably more interesting things to talk to Michael Owen about.
God. They'd have some stories.
Funny story where, was it Ronan Keating's son went in and...
Where's this going?
He was saying that his dad was Ronan Keating, and then she held back explaining that her dad was Michael Owen, because he's obviously a much bigger superstar, especially in the UK, which is the audience.
Yeah.
And he kind of made a little bit of a embarrassment for himself.
Oh, mortal. I didn't see that now, unfortunately.
Unfortunately,
this is I put myself in a weird position if I'm the Love Island expert in the room.
You are.
That's
By
what I'm
default.
saying,
You are.
But so at the first hurdle, I fell there. Apologies.
I don't think she won.
Did she win the Love Island?
No, she finished. She was in the final for definite, but she didn't win. No, she didn't.
Ian saying second out there. God, he's handy to have there.
Second place. Yeah. No, she had quite the journey, I'd imagine.
I'd say she had quite the journey.
But yeah, look, I mean she's 19, I think. Like Michael Owen was as famous as you can be at 19. I think there is an interesting parallel there, I have to say.
2000 and oh God, he was still at Liverpool back then.
Well,
2003.
he was, yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, he
There's
was,
very few.
no, when he was 19, it was 1999.
But in terms of her being 19 when she was born, he was.
Oh,
like, still
sorry,
Liverpool,
yeah.
Oh, that's where my head's gone, because I still think of Michael Owen as being 21. You know, he's like at the
He
oldest.
always will be, yeah.
Like, these people are encased in carbonite in my head. Like, even watching last night the Commonwealth Games was Liz McColgan's young one winning gold, and like I'm going, but Liz McColgan is still 30, and Liz McColgan is still participating. No,
Liz McColgan's definitely. I don't know what you're.
Still, she can't have a daughter that's competing and winning and you know,
If
world
she's
level.
19, she was born in 2003.
Yeah.
Yeah, who said 99?
Sorry, I thought I was saying when Michael Owen was 19,
right,
he was
okay,
famous.
yeah,
I think we were just talking across purposes. I've been thinking about this show a little bit though, and I think there's obviously loads to talk about with Ian Wright and Michael Owen, and we'll get into that. I was thinking about Karen Carney and that England team, that England generation that came before. I think she had her last cap in 2019, maybe even 2020, and I think has like between 120, 130 caps, you know, and it's just like, and then the next team goes and gets over the line. It just must be one of those weird things, because you imagine you're delighted and you have so many teammates, and then there's another part that just goes like, I was born 2 years too soon. Because it's not as if she wouldn't have been a star on this team.
Yeah, and she's not. It's not as if she's not a player of renown, because you don't just lapse into media work as much as she has and doing the roadshows and all that without being a superstar. But yeah, to be the generation that just went before.
I just wonder how that feels.
I think Lisa Fallon alluded to it during the celebrations, that there were a number of that team who would be looking on, who had such an impact before and fell short just those few times. And then for the young ones basically to come along and do it, it would have been tough to watch, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just one of those things that that's the type of thing I'm just fascinated by, because you must have genuine delight and genuine regret at the same time. Just it's such a complicated feeling, I would imagine.
It's such a dichotomy between Owen and Wright as well, when you consider the ages at which they kind of made their breakthroughs. Because Michael Owen obviously was kind of a prodigy from, you know, year dot at Liverpool and coming through when he was a teenager, and like Ian Wright was not, like, when you think of his breakthrough year would have been what, 89, 90, scoring a couple of goals in the cup final against Manchester United. He was knocking on 27.
That's mad,
at that cup final. Like, he made his breakthrough like in his mid-20s. It just wouldn't happen really anymore. And if it does happen, you kind of figure, and it's weird watching this play out, because it would probably happen a League of Ireland player if it's going to happen to anybody, because they reach a certain level over here. Like Keith Fahey almost kind of springs to mind in that regard. Not at the same level, but like certainly in terms of age profile. You get to a certain level and then actually head over to England again.
Was Wes 25 when he went to Livingston? 24?
Yeah, I think it's not.
You know, and then if you think that, like we were talking about him last night, you know, you get a year at Livingston, then like a year at Blackpool, maybe 2 years at Blackpool. By the time he signs for Norwich, he's 28, 29, you know, and they're only championship. And then he goes, we were talking about how like Wes Hoolahan, it turns out, was always good enough for the Premier League, but was never good enough to be spotted, to be
scouting has developed a little bit.
You had to be in a team that got there, you know. I think that's, you know, that's Ian Wright was similar in a way. Like Ian Wright kind of like had to make a big impact at Crystal Palace for a club like Arsenal to realise that he was
actually worth going and spending, was it 2.1 million quid on it at the time?
That much it was, yeah.
I think it was in and around. It's one of the ones that kind of sticks in your head.
Wright must have scored a phenomenal amount of goals like Ian Wright was out of the Arsenal team when they won the double in '98. Like he was there, he would have been starting at the start of the season.
He was sold that summer,
and Elka had kind of replaced him on the team, and he had a lot of injuries, right? He signed for them in '91, I think, right? And he was their record goal scorer. You know, that's a short enough period of time. He must have just scored 25 goals a season.
He was exceptionally consistent.
Yeah.
Exceptionally consistent in terms of what he did with goals in Arsenal. Like, looking at, I have his numbers actually open here. First season 24 goals, second season 15 and 31, next season after that 23 and 39, 18 and 31 after that, 15 and 31, 23 and 35, and then that last season, as you alluded to there, with Anelka making the breakthrough and Bergkamp and everyone else up front, was 10 and 24. So he's still nearly getting a goal every other game.
Yeah,
just incredible consistency from Ian Wright, and God, turned into a hell of a personality as well off the pitch. So yeah, there you go. August 17th, we'll have more details on that and how you can get hold of tickets for that roadshow in Vicar Street with Cadbury FC on the show in a little while. But it is time for the news round here on Off the Ball even, which is brought to you with thanks to Gillette for an effortless finish to your day. Mentioned Irish teams in European action. Anne Marie will fill you in more detail on these in a moment as they approach the hour mark in Sofia. It's still CSK 0, St. Pat's 0. Things not going as well for Sligo in Norway tonight. There is one other game to keep track of. It is at Tallaght Stadium. It's in the Europa League third qualifying round, and Shamrock Rovers are at home to the North Macedonian champions of Skopje. There for us tonight for the duration will be Stephen Doyle. Stephen, good evening.
Very good evening there, everybody.
How are you getting on? How's Tallaght looking this evening?
All good. Unfortunately, we've got no Gilbert O'Sullivan or David Essex playing for you tonight, Richie. But it's very sunny. It's lovely. It's a really, really nice day out here. There's not too much of a wind. I'm just looking at the flag. Well, there is a bit of a wind now going cross field over to the far stand there. We're up in the press box. So just opposite us, that's where the wind is blowing. Pitch looks really good out there. We're just waiting for the players to come out and warm up. And I can tell you I've got the teams there, Richie. So Shamrock Rovers, of course, rang the changes. 9 changes in total last weekend for that cup match against Bangor. And, of course, they won that by 4-0. But looking back at the team that played against Ludogorets here last week, there's 2 changes to that side. So coming in, Dylan Watts into midfield in place of Richie Tell, and Rory Gaffney up front against Aaron Green. So Green and Tell dropping to the bench, where they're joined there by the new signing Daniel Cleary, of course, who got off to a great start to a Shamrock Rovers career, scoring a goal in that cup match at the weekend. And I suppose there's going to be a big boost for Rovers as well, having Rory Gaffney starting. Of course, they didn't want to risk him last week with the yellow peril, of course, the yellow cards building up for him, so they didn't want to risk him ahead of this game tonight. Just looking at the opposition side, Skopje coming over, of course, from North Macedonia, and Burton Shea, their first choice left back, is suspended, while their right back Valadica, Baradovsky, and their centre half Abdullah Zelil dropped to the bench. So Besir Demiri, signed from Dinamo Tirana this week, makes his debut at left back, while Angelche Timovsky and Senegal international Albert Dieng come into the starting team for Skopje. So I was just looking at Albert Dien's stats there. He's playing in the Kosafa Cup down in Africa there recently. He's been capped 6 times, so looks like a decent player. They brought him in over the closed season. Worth remembering that Skopje beat Lincoln Red Imps over 2 legs in the Champions League. They lost the away tie 2-0, but they were 3-0 up from the home tie, so perhaps not too much to be read into that. But of course, they were knocked out by Dinamo Zagreb in the Champions League. And a result of note there was the away leg. They drew 2-2 in that away leg, which was a very, very impressive result. Dinamo Zagreb, a top side, and arguably better than Ludogorets, who Shamrock Rovers faced in the last round. So definitely a team here not to be taken lightly. And of course, Stephen Bradley, the head coach of Shamrock Rovers, won't be taking them lightly. He was very quick to warn me about that last week in the post-match interview. The winners, of course, will progress to play-off either Karabag or Ferencváros to get into the playoff round for the to get into the group stage of the Europa League. Really tricky ties there, whoever they come through and play against. But the losers of this tie drop down, of course, to the Europa Conference playoff round, where either KI from the Faroe Islands or Balcony from Kosovo await. KI, familiar, of course, to League of Ireland supporters. They were the side that Dundalk beat to get into the Europa League group stage a couple of years ago.
So Bradley still very much, with the focus is on getting a group stage. He'd obviously prefer it to be this one. He can't help but feel that the atmosphere might be slightly flattened given the drop down from Champions League into Europa League in the intervening 7 days, Steve-O.
Well, just from what I've read in the build-up and speaking to the people here at Shamrock Rovers, they're not expecting a crowd as big as last week's crowd, which was 6,233 if memory serves me correctly, and they're not expecting a crowd as big as that. So it will be interesting to see whether they can get a similar kind of atmosphere. Look, all it takes is for a hard tackle, an old bone cruncher in the midfield, or a decent strike at goal to get the crowd whipped up here at Tallaght Stadium. I'm sure whoever it is here will get behind them. And in fairness, they have built up a really good atmosphere in that south stand where all the ultras go behind the goal. So that'll be interesting to see. But I definitely think, as you say, it's probably diluted a little bit since last week, just because of the convoluted process of where you go after being knocked out of the Champions League onto the next competitions.
Yeah, you can't help but have a bit of fatigue in terms of the week-on-week nature of these things. Steve-O's going to be there throughout the course of the evening for us, an 8 o'clock kickoff at Tallaght Stadium. We've had people in contact already looking to get tickets for our roadshow August 17th in Vicar Street, with thanks to Cadbury FC, and it's an exclusive all-fair event. It's not going to be live on the air, so tickets are limited. Don't delay to get them. Go to otbsports.com/events. That's otbsports.com/events. And a reminder that ticket proceeds will go towards supporting Irish women's grassroots football. So that's Rovers tonight taking on. You're pointing at me, Mick. You're distracting me.
I was going to say something about Ian Wright. Rovers are.
There's a connection to Rovers and Ian Wright.
No, there isn't. It's just someone sent me the Ian Wright's goals if you add in all competitions and not like those league ones that you read out were pretty impressive. But in his 7 seasons at Arsenal, his goals tallies, if you include all competitions, are insane. 26, 30, 35, 30, 23, 30 and 11 in his final season.
It's not bad.
That's unbelievable. Good cup player, obviously, as well.
Well, they were in loads of they're in
Cup
a lot
winners'
of Cup Winners' Cups,
and whatnot, yeah.
But
his ratio is incredible, like, you know.
It'd be great to get insights to Glenn Hoddle's squad in '98 as well, because the two of them were in the same England squad that went to France and had a certain P. Gascoigne left out just beforehand too. But that's all to come August 17th, as I say, otbsports.com/events if you want to get hold of tickets. Contrasting fortunes for the sides in Europe at the moment, Anne Marie.
Yeah, St. Pat's and Sligo Rovers are also in European action this evening. St. Pat's are in Bulgaria facing CSKA Sofia. That's in the first leg of their Europa Conference League third round qualifier. 62 minutes on the clock there, and it's still 0-0. While Sligo Rovers are away to Norway's Viking, and they currently trail now 3-0. They had a nightmare start. 2 of those goals in the first 8 minutes, and Gary Buckley had to be stretchered off early on with what looked like a serious looking knee issue. They did seem to come back into the game, particularly coming up to half time, applying pressure, but now they've conceded a third in the 53rd minute.
Yeah,
so
Traore just 8 minutes after the break putting Viking 3-0 up on the night. I think the talk from Sligo Rovers fans is, even though a few of them headed over, was that this is probably a step too far.
Bonus territory.
Exactly.
The very dangerous bonus territory.
Yeah.
Before we leave the League of Ireland, I have to mention the Scuppies' issues with their transport and how they've reacted to it.
This is mad because Rovers faced similar. And
They did,
Stephen Bradley was very vocal about the issues that they faced in previous European rounds.
They flew to Malta, I think, from Knock or from maybe Shannon or something. But there's been all teams that have flown in and out. It's affected so much. It's basically the staffing shortages in Dublin Airport that charter flights can't really get spots in Dublin. But Scoopy have taken it very seriously. They, in fact, have blamed the Irish government for this and are calling on the North Macedonian government to get involved. I'll just read out their statement. Now, bear in mind, this is on their website in English, but I'd imagine it is translated, so some things are thing. But our team has been interfered with by making small plays in such an unbecoming manner. Despite our budget, we were trying to keep our players comfortable by hiring a charter plane and paying thousands of euros to ensure that our players could make it to the Europa League in good health. But the Irish government did not listen to UEFA, despite the intervention of UEFA, landed us 300 kilometres away from Dublin. This is in Shannon, which is about, what did we say, 214? Yeah, but so, you know, I understand what they're saying. And gave our team an undeserved treatment on this journey. Likewise, after the match, he will send it back 300 kilometres and fly it from there. Okay, right, there's
definitely
translation.
translated.
Okay, yeah, but I'm just going to go with what's literally in front of me. Unfortunately, this has not been done to any other team except the North Macedonia team. Our loneliness has emerged again as we progressed on the European road. I beg your North Macedonian Ministry of Foreign Affairs that we should at least arrange for tonight's return to Dublin. In addition, we would like to say to the Irish that they should know well that we have a very characterful team. The reward of being a team is to respond as a team to the evil done to you.
Wow.
In the same way, today our team will show you what a character it is, like lions on the field. It will show you that there is no team that will not bow down to such cheap games. Such cheap games should not have a place in football. They should not go unpunished. I don't know, this is actually hard to read at this stage, but you only landed FC Scuppy at the airport, but you landed PFC Ludogorets in Dublin. You should treat us the same as if any Italian, Spanish, German or English team showed up. We hope that our government will respond to this situation with respect to the public.
Christ, are we at war?
And that's from the club management of FC Scuppy 1927.
It takes about 2 hours to get from Shannon to Tala, so I presume they came via coach. I'd imagine the emotions are running high on that coach, if that's the kind of statement.
You have to admit, it's not the kind of statement you get from a League of Ireland club or a Premier League club or anything like that, you know?
It's wonderful. Like, and also, like, it is a sham that we can't fly teams to Dublin. But at the same time, like, I don't know if it's a massive conspiracy. Although you never know.
Governmental one.
You know, they have their opinion and we have ours.
Is Micheál Martin an agent of Shamrock Rovers, perhaps? I would have thought Cork City, but, you know, who knows? The government works in mysterious ways.
Yeah.
Oh, it's 4-0 now to Viking against Sligo Rovers.
Yeah, Nicholas Sandberg has made it 4-0 to Viking. That tie is done and dusted. But we are into the final major of the year, at least from a women's perspective, Anne Marie.
Yeah, and Leona Maguire shot a level par opening round of 71 at the Women's Open Championship in Scotland today. That leaves her in a tie for 28th, 6 shots off the lead, so she is well in contention here. Stephanie Meadow, meanwhile, is 4 over, playing her final hole today.
Yeah, we also have action on the European Tour. They're over in Celtic Manor.
Yeah, and at 1 under par, Paul Dunn is best of the Irish after his opening round at the Kazoo Open in Wales. Niall Carney is 1 over, meanwhile, with Jonathan Caldwell 3 over, and then Cormac Sharvin 2 shots back on 5 over. That's 10 shots off the lead, though. Shane Lowry then is the only Irish interest at the Wyndham Championship, which is in North Carolina this week. The Offaly native is currently 4 over through 4 holes of his opening round. It's not the greatest of starts. His preparations for this tournament were also not ideal, with his clubs lost en route to the US before he got them back only yesterday.
Has Shane Lowry written a fiery press release asking for government intervention and wondering why his clubs were
They went missing in Dublin Airport, didn't they?
Yeah, having it happened to Leona Maguire
as well.
What, 2 weeks ago? We really
clearly
need to sort out our airport.
There's dark forces at play, as Mr. Keys once says. Dark forces are at play here. I just realised the DP World Tour is going to suffer the same fate as places like The Point and all that, whereby you only ever call them by their old name. You'll never really get to grips with DP World Tour. It'll always be the European Tour in all of our hearts. Not the DP
I think that, yeah. That's probably fair, yeah. Well, we'll see. We'll see how long there is a DP World Tour / European Tour to worry about.
We'll see how the dark forces get to play with the golf, Mick. That's what's going to be the story there.
A lot of calls for a certain player who come through late, by the way.
Yeah.
Sorry, go on.
I feel like we should have Etta James at last playing in the background as we get to this story, but it seems as if we finally reached a point we should have been at a long time ago in terms of women's rugby.
Yeah, good news today as the IRFU confirmed it will offer 43 professional contracts to elite women's players from next season. It's the first time that members of the 15 squad will be offered paid contracts. The IRFU says it will discuss the deals with players before releasing any further details. Meanwhile, Gillian McDarby was today appointed to the role of Head of Women's Performance and Pathways.
Yeah, this is stuff obviously that's had come from the reports that went into the women's game last year in the wake of, I guess, Donnybrook Gate and all that kind of stuff. But this is a positive step, Mick, and one that's overdue. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, we're seeing where the extra €1 million that was set aside is starting to go. Obviously, we had the contracts. 2 weeks ago as well. So look, there's still a huge amount of work to go, but it's been taken seriously, and you know, if all steps are progress, then we'll be happy enough. But again, I don't think there's any backclapping for these moves, but they are necessary. But it's good that they're happening, obviously.
Absolutely. We've had several texts pointing out that in terms of players coming through late, because obviously Ian Wright, at the age of 27, was making his mark in the Crystal Palace first team. Jamie Vardy is probably one of the last ones to make that step up to that level. 53106 for 30 cents if you want to get in contact. Thank you for all those players done so far.
Last longer. So Jamie Vardy, you would say, is still mid-30s, and he's still, you don't feel like he's slowing down massively. He might not be as prolific as he was before, but Ian Wright was playing till he was
in his late
30s. You know, Teddy Sheringham maybe came through a little bit later. He played till he was 40 as well.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I'm picking out 3 random players in my head, and that's.
There is a lot to be said. I think we raised the point when Wayne Rooney announced his retirement, in that he had a lot of football in his legs by the time he was 18.
Yeah.
So it's obvious that
Michael Owen hamstrings were so destroyed that he never felt like he could sprint again by the time he was in his early 20s.
That's insane.
So like I'd be interested in actually if we are talking to the lads about that on the night. Maybe not to put Joe and Kathleen's interview to them, but I wonder, is there something to that? Is there something to running yourself ragged in those early years at the top level, just limiting the amount that you can continue on?
That's what I did, Mick, and I feel like I'm only coming into my prime now. Mick McCarthy, Anne Marie Donlan, thank you so much for the news round this evening. Just to bring you up to date, we will be keeping tabs on Shamrock Rovers and Scuppy and their fiery press releases that may follow at Tallaght Stadium tonight. Stephen Doyle is going to be there for us throughout the night. Still CSK Sofia 0, St Pat's 0 in the Bulgarian capital. There is 19 minutes to go there, and it's 22 minutes to go in Stavanger, where Sligo, I guess, would probably wish that it was already done. They're 4-0 down away to Viking at the moment. We will keep you updated on all of those as the night progresses, but right now it's cash machine time.
Your chance to win big. News Talk Summer Cash Machine.
Yep, this week the Summer Cash Machine has an incredible amount up for grabs, because this Friday, that's tomorrow, one person guaranteed is going to win €50,000. That's €50,000. If you want it to be you, text play to 57557. That's 57557. Get your entry in by 3 p.m. Then across the Go Loud network of stations, someone will get that call, and if it's your phone that rings, answer it within 5 rings. Tell Barry, or indeed whoever's ringing you, the exact amount in euro and cent, and you will win that cash. So remember the amount: €50,000 dead. Over 18s only. Text costs €2.50 plus your standard message rate to play. You're playing across the Go Loud network of stations, and terms and conditions are on newstalk.com. We're talking to TJ Reid next.
The Newsround on Off the